My name's Mark, and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello, you lot, and welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about something really important. Times when you don't feel ready, but you still have to decide. Last episode, we talked about the feeling of not quite recognising yourself anymore. Like something's shifted, life's moved on, and you're still catching up with it. And if you've been sitting in that space for a bit, this is what tends to come next. You're expected to start making decisions. Now, not small ones, the kind that feel like they actually matter now. What you're doing with your time, where you're heading, what you're saying yes to, and what you're walking away from. And suddenly, those decisions don't feel simple anymore. They feel really heavy, like whatever you choose is going to stick, like you're locking something in. And that's where it starts to mess with your head a bit. Because on one hand, you know you need to decide. You can't just stay where you are forever. But on the other hand, you don't feel ready to choose anything properly. So you end up stuck in this strange position. You're looking at options, thinking them through, going over the same questions again and again, and still not feeling any clearer. Because every option comes with that same thought underneath it. What if this is the wrong one? What if I waste time? What if I regret it? What if I mess this up and then have to start again? And the more you think about it, the bigger it starts to feel. Like this one decision is going to define everything that comes next. So instead of choosing, you hesitate. You hold back. You keep your options open. You wait for something to feel certain. But it doesn't. And while you're stuck in that place, life doesn't pause. Opportunities move. Deadlines come around. Other people make their decisions. And you're still there, trying to work out what the right thing is. And when you look around, it feels like everyone else has just picked something. They seem more sure, more settled, like they've got a direction. And you're sat there thinking, how are they doing that? Why don't I feel like that? What am I missing here? So let's just stop there for a second. Because if that's where you are right now, stuck between options, feeling like every decision carries too much weight and waiting to feel ready before you move, well, you're not the only one. And more importantly, you're not stuck because you're bad at making decisions. You're stuck because of how this stage of life makes decisions feel. And once you understand that, then things can start to shift. So why does it feel like this? Why do decisions suddenly feel so big, so permanent, so easy to get wrong? It's not because the decisions themselves have changed. It's because of the stage that you're in. Before, a lot of your choices didn't carry the same weight. You could try things out, change your mind, move on without it feeling like a big deal. If something didn't work, it was just part of the process. But now, well, it feels different. Because the decisions that you're making now start to shape your life in a more visible way. What you study, what work you go into, who you spend your time with, where you put your energy. These aren't just short-term choices anymore. They feel like they say something about who you are and where you're heading. And that's where the pressure creeps in. Because you're not just choosing what to do, you're trying to choose who to be. And that's a very different kind of decision. And at the same time, there's something else going on underneath all of this. Your brain is wired to keep you safe. Not to help you make the perfect decision, to keep things predictable. So when you're faced with something uncertain, something that could go well but also could go wrong, your brain doesn't go, "This is exciting, let's explore it." No. It goes, "Careful, this could mess things up." And the bigger the decision feels, the louder that signal gets. So what you experience isn't just thinking, it's pressure. Pressure to get it right. Pressure to avoid regret. Pressure to not waste time. And because your identity still isn't fully settled yet, the pressure has nowhere stable to land. You don't have a clear sense of, this is me, this is what I do. So every decision feels like it's doing too much, like it has to solve everything at once, give you direction, give you certainty, give you confidence. And no decision can actually do that. But when it feels like it should, that's when things start to build up. And this is the bit that people don't realise. It's not that you're bad at making decisions, it's that you're trying to make a clear, confident choice whilst feeling uncertain, under pressure, and not fully settled in yourself. Of course that feels hard. Of course that feels heavy. Because you're asking one decision to do more than it's actually capable of doing. And once that pressure builds, it starts to affect how you approach every option. Not just what you choose, but how you think about choosing in the first place. And that's where most people get stuck. Because once a decision feels this big, you start treating it like a choice. You start treating it like a test that you've got to pass. So instead of asking, what feels like the right next step, you start asking, what's the perfect decision here? The one that works out, the one that you won't regret, the one that keeps everything on track. And the moment you start looking for that, then everything tightens up. Because now every option has to be right. Not just okay, right. So you start going over it in your head, weighing it up, thinking it through, trying to predict how all of this is going to play out. And for a moment, it feels like you're getting somewhere, like you're being careful, like you're doing it properly. But then the doubt creeps in. What if I'm missing something? What if this looks right now, but it doesn't work later? What if I pick this and then realise that I should have chosen the other one? So you go back over it again, and again, and again. And instead of getting clearer, it just gets noisier. Because you're trying to solve something that can't be solved in your head. You're trying to predict a future that you haven't lived yet. And the more you try to do that, the more uncertain everything feels. So, what do? Well, you hold off. You keep your options open. You tell yourself that you need a bit more time. You wait to feel more sure. But that feeling doesn't arrive, because certainty isn't what comes first. Movement is. And without the movement, nothing changes. So you stay stuck in the middle phase. Not choosing, not moving, just circling. And while you're doing that, something starts to build underneath. Our old friend, pressure. Because now it's not just the decision itself, it's the fact that you haven't made it yet. Deadlines get closer, options start to narrow, other people move ahead. And suddenly, the question isn't just, what should I do? It becomes, why haven't I sorted this yet? And that's when it can start to feel really personal, like there's something wrong with you, like you're behind, like you're not as capable, like everyone else has figured something out that you haven't. But what's actually happening is much simpler. You've fallen into a trap. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because of how this stage of life makes decisions feel. You're trying to make the perfect decision in a situation where perfect doesn't exist, and that'll keep you stuck every time. So let's strip this back, because the pressure that you're feeling around decisions is coming from one idea, and it's this: that there's a right choice. A version that works out. A version that you won't regret. A version that keeps everything on track. But that idea is what's creating the problem. Because in most of these situations, there isn't one perfect decision. There are just different directions, each with their own upsides, each with their own trade-offs. And the moment that you start looking for the perfect option, something's going to shift. You're not trying to get it exactly right anymore. You're trying to choose something that you can move forward with. And that's a much more realistic place to stand. Because here's what's actually happening in real life. You make a decision, and then you learn from it. You adjust. You refine. You change direction if you need to. Not because you got it wrong, but because that's how things take shape. Most people don't land in the right path straight away. They move into something and then they build from there. But when you're stuck in your head, it feels like you're supposed to figure all of that out first, like you should already know how it's going to play out. And you don't, because no one does. So instead of asking, what's the perfect decision here? A better question is, what direction am I willing to move in? Not forever, but just for now. Because decisions at this stage aren't about locking your whole life in place. They're about getting yourself moving, giving yourself something to work with, something that you can learn from. And once you start seeing it like that, that's when the pressure drops. Not completely, but enough that you can actually start to think. Enough that you can choose something without needing it to solve everything. Because that's the shift here. You don't need a decision that guarantees happiness. You need a decision that you can move forward with and trust that you'll adjust as you go. That's how people actually build a life that fits, not by getting it perfect at the start, but by staying engaged with it as it unfolds. So if you're in that space right now, stuck between options, waiting to feel more certain before you move, what is it that actually helps? Not in a perfect, all the answers way. Just in a way that gets you out of your head and back into moving again. Well, the first thing is stop trying to base your decisions on how you feel, because at this stage, your feelings are going to be all over the place. Some days, something will feel right. The next day, it won't. So if you rely on that, then you're going to keep changing your mind. Instead, come back to something more steady. What actually matters to you right now? Not 5 years down the line, not what you think you should care about, just now. What feels important enough that you'd be willing to put some time and energy into it? Because decisions that line up with that tend to hold up better over time. Second thing, bring the worst case out of your head and actually look at it properly. Because most of the fear around decisions isn't based on what's likely. It's based on what might happen. And when you leave it vague, it grows. So ask yourself properly, if this doesn't work out, what actually happens? Now don't go for the dramatic version. Go for the real version. Do you lose everything, or do you adjust, change direction, and carry on? Most of the time, I can tell you now, it's the second one. And once you see that clearly, the decision loses some of its weight. And the third thing is keep it simple when you're comparing options. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Just break it down. Option A, what does it give you? What does it cost you? Option B, what does it give you? What does it cost you? And that's it. Because when everything's spinning around in your head, it feels tangled. But when you put it in front of you like that, you start to see it more clearly. Not perfectly, but enough to work with. And the last thing, and this one is the one that really matters, you don't need to know if a decision is right. You just need to know if you can stand by it. For now, not forever. Just long enough to see what it leads to. Because that's how this works. You choose something, you step into it. And then you learn from being in it, not from standing back, trying to get it perfect before you move. So instead of asking, is this definitely the right decision? Change it and ask yourself this. Can I move forwards with this, even if I'm not 100% sure? And if the answer is yes, then that's enough. So, if you only take one thing from this episode, you can tell that's going to be a bit of a theme, I want it to be this. You don't need to feel ready to make a decision, and you don't need to get it perfect, because there isn't a perfect version. There are just different directions and what you do with them once you step into them. So if you've been stuck, going over the same options, waiting to feel more certain before you move, well, that's not clarity. That's hesitation dressed up as thinking, and it keeps you in the same place. So instead of waiting for everything to line up, just bring it back to something simpler. What matters to me right now? What can I move forward with? What can I stand by, even if I'm not 100% sure? And then just choose something. Not perfectly, but just intentionally. Because once you move, things start to make more sense. You get feedback. You learn what fits. You adjust as you go. But none of that happens while you're standing still. So here's something to take away from this. This week, make one decision that you've been putting off. Not the perfect one. Just the one that you can stand by. And then stick with it long enough to see what it actually leads to. Because that's how you build clarity. Not by thinking your way there, but by moving your way into it. And if it doesn't work out exactly how you hoped, you won't be back at the start. You'll just be further forwards with more to work with than you had before. Now, there's something else that starts to show up at this stage that no one really prepares you for. And it adds a whole layer of pressure to all of this. Money. Earning it, managing it, and worrying about it. And the way that it quietly starts to influence your decisions, sometimes without you even realizing. So in the next episode, we're going to properly break that down. What financial pressure actually does to your thinking, and how to stay steady when money starts to feel like the thing driving everything. So, are you up for it? Of course you are.